Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin. Thank you for tuning into our podcast, The Secret War on Cash. I'm President and CEO of Swiss America Trading, and that we're bringing you this information to talk about the changing dynamics that exist in not only our domestic markets, but the global markets as well. And we're going to do this today with our co-host here, Chris Agelastos, as he slides in. There he is. Chris, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Well, that's great to hear. We're going to talk about BRICS. We're back on BRICS again. And it's not hard to be back on BRICS because it just seems like there's always something going on there.
Yeah.
And, as much as I think there is a strong contingency of people in our country who wish BRICS didn't exist, it's seemingly here, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And especially, let's look at this first article. BRICS launches initiative for international payment system. Now, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, when Trump was taking office, he was with all these tariffs and what have you. Tariffs were really kind of a direct shot at the alliance known as BRICS. Okay. And in fact, initially, some of the nations involved with BRICS were saying that, we're going to back down. We're still going to embrace the dollar, et cetera. But yet they've done anything but that. And now they're launching this payment system for international payments. So yes, they are moving forward. And so what do they mean when they say this, Chris? What is this initiative for this international payment system?
Well, it's a way for them to be able to do transactions amongst each other without having to use any of the Western European or the U.S. payment system. So a lot of people, if you've ever done an international wire transfer, you probably had to use the SWIFT system to do that. Well, one of the challenges that Russia has experienced when the U.S. placed sanctions on them for all of this, war in Ukraine, all of a sudden now those transactions were very limited, being controlled by the U.S. What money Russia could move. A lot of their money and their assets are still frozen. Because they are locked out of that system. So, think about it, and we've talked about this before. Let's say you have an account at Bank of America or Chase, and they tell you, hey, you can no longer do transactions using our payment methods, using our ATM system, using our teller network. You'd be pretty much locked out. And so what BRICS is doing is creating their own system so that they can make these international payments without having to rely on the U.S. primarily allowing it to happen. And with this, global trade war that appears to be inching closer and closer every day, China's caught, very directly in a battle with tariffs in the United States. It's just creating more animosity and disdain for the U.S. And our currency and our payment system. So I think you kind of can't blame them. I mean, I'm not happy that it's happening. Obviously, I don't want to support BRICS. At the same time, they want to limit the downside risk of doing financial transactions and not being able to control it on their end. So they're coming up with their own system.
Well, and that's why, and for those of you tuning in, if you've not received our report entitled The Secret War on Cash, I would strongly encourage you to do so. It's free of charge. Just contact our office at 1-800-289-2646 or visit us online at www.swissamerica.com. That's all in one word. You'll see the number as well as that web in the description here in the podcast. But it's really a serious thing that's going on here. And it speaks to, again, why diversification is key, and especially being diversified in metals right now, which have been, as we've been talking about all year, have been absolutely exploding and expected to continue to do so. Now, looking at this second article here, Chris, they're launching this new system, and now we've got this next headline: BRICS gives huge update. Non-members can settle trade in new payment system.
Yeah.
So this is really... here's my slant or take on this. Number one, again, there's been a growing contingency of people and nations who have been aligning themselves with BRICS, number one. Number two, they come out with this and say non-members can now settle and trade. Well, I believe that they've already had discussions with these other nations. They're not coming out and saying this like, okay, well, if somebody else wants in, let's let them in. I would have to believe, or I do believe, that they've already had these conversations and other nations are on board with it. And what it gets into here in the article, and I'll let you talk about it a little bit, Chris, but
Mhm.
this is all very counterproductive to the U.S. dollar and
Yeah.
potentially terribly damaging to the U.S. dollar, because it's that many more people that are looking to kind of move away from the dollar as much as they can, really, at this point. So like,
Mhm.
how in the world is the U.S. dollar going to withstand this kind of a payment system coming into play, which works against the dollar?
Yeah, well, and here's the thing with this, and I agree with your take on it. I think this is a way for BRICS nations to be able to open up this payment system to anybody without all the other nations that aren't part of BRICS fearing direct retaliation from the US. Meaning, obviously, they've been talking about doing this payment system amongst their own member nations. And if, let's say, we're doing trade, I'll just throw England out there, and England all of a sudden joined BRICS, right? That would be a direct affront to the United States. I imagine President Trump would have a lot to say about that, right? And it could cause a lot of major problems. But the way that they're talking about opening this system up to anybody, it means that anyone could sort of quietly do transactions with BRICS directly using their payment system, no longer using the dollar, and it's not as obvious as them going out and joining the club,
That's
and
actually
so
that's an excellent point. Like, how would the U.S. know other nations were doing things like that, other than maybe a dip in demand, or maybe a spike in supply? Uh,
yeah.
there's really, this is an independent system, so there
Mhm.
really, that I can think of, there's no way that we would know for sure.
Yeah, it would certainly be something we would suspect. Like you said, we would see drops in other areas. I'm sure, obviously, we have different ways to spy on these different nations and maybe some of these transactions. But again, because it's not being done out in the open, our retaliation also couldn't be done out in the open. And so it would be a hush hush sort of thing happening that we would eventually have to deal with. But this really is just them saying, "Hey, we'll do business with anyone," and them kind of opening up their arms. Obviously, I don't think it's for the best reasons. I don't think that they're just being very kind. I mean, they obviously want to minimize the impact of the dollar. China and Russia, especially, are essentially in a financial war with the United States. Brazil is the one sort of heading up all of this, but I don't believe for a minute they would be doing it if Russia and China weren't in support of it. So again, I think it's a way for Russia and China to say, "Oh no, we still love the U.S. We still love the U.S. dollar," and on the surface continue to do a lot of international trade with the dollar, while Brazil is pushing this program forward. And the further this goes, they're actually doing the next big summit, the next BRICS summit in July in Rio, and Brazil is running that. So I'm sure between now and then, and certainly the second and third week of July, we're going to hear a lot more about this coming out. But again, it's just another nail in the coffin. It doesn't mean the dollar is gone tomorrow, but it's just one more mile down the journey, and we're getting closer to that destination. I don't know exactly when it's going to end, but that's why I tell people, you've always heard, don't time the market. Don't try to figure out exactly when it's going to happen. Just prepare so that when it does happen, you're in a better position than had you done otherwise.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. Well, look, we are in the midst of a tariff war, a trade war. And I'll tell you what, we might have to rename this podcast, because it's no secret. This isn't a secret war. This
The
war is
overt
like in
war
your
on cash. Yeah.
face. Yeah. The overt war. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, well, thank you for that, Chris. And again, BRICS has been an interesting one to follow, because it seems like there is progress at every turn with them. And again,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's probably a pretty big consequence ultimately to the U.S. dollar. So for those of you tuning in, as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like any of our free information, you'll see all the ways you can contact us in the description here of the podcast. And if you're not subscribed, please do so. Also follow us on social media. Thank you, Chris. Enjoyed hearing that, and look forward to talking to you more in the future. And for all of you tuning in, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.